God's chosen ones. When God prepares a table, your enemies watch. They thought they got away with it. With the betrayal, the lies, the silent attempts to break what God himself was building in you. You didn't clap back. You didn't defend yourself. You just stayed still. And to them, that stillness looked like weakness. But heaven knew better, because stillness wasn't surrender. Stillness was strategy. Because if you are God's chosen one, this was written in heaven, with your vindication already signed. And now, the silence is breaking. The reversal has begun. The same mouths that slandered you are running out of stories. The same hands that tried to block you are losing their grip. And the same people who look down on you will have no choice but to look again. Because this is not about revenge. It's about revelation. The one they overlooked is the one God is about to lift. The stone they rejected is becoming the cornerstone. So if something inside you whispers, "This is me," then listen close. There was a season in my life where I stopped expecting justice. Not because I didn't believe in it, but because I had waited so long, I thought maybe it wasn't coming. I had been lied on, excluded from rooms I helped build, watched people smile in my face and scheme behind my back. And when I tried to explain the truth, they called me dramatic. He said I was bitter, said I was imagining it. So I grew quiet, not out of fear, out of wisdom, because sometimes when the battle isn't yours, the best move is to stand still and let God show you who was really fighting for you all along. And friend, if you've ever been there, if you've ever cried behind closed doors because the betrayal was too loud and your defense felt too small, let me tell you something sacred. God was never ignoring you. He was setting a trap for your enemies, using your stillness as bait. I didn't see it at first. The silence, the delay, the unanswered prayers. It felt like abandonment, but it was actually alignment, because while I thought nothing was happening, heaven was collecting every insult, marking every lie, stacking every injustice like logs on an altar. And now the fire is coming, but not to destroy me, to reveal me. Because here's what I learned in that silent season. When God is quiet, he's not inactive. He's strategic. Like a judge waiting for the perfect moment to bang the gavel. Like a surgeon preparing for the most precise cut. Like a king who's not interested in temporary revenge, but in eternal reversal. They thought I was done. They thought they won. They thought silence meant submission. But they forgot who I belonged to. And now, the God who saw what they did in secret is preparing to reveal who I really am in public. Not to shame them, but to vindicate the one they tried to erase. Because the God of justice doesn't just correct behind the scenes. He exposes, he repositions, and when he moves, he makes sure the ones who watched you suffer, watch you rise. So, if you're reading this and your heart is pounding, if you've walked through betrayal, stayed silent, and wondered whether heaven still remembers your name, hear me. You are not crazy, you're not overreacting, you're not invisible. You are chosen, and you're about to be revealed. God has been collecting every detail, and when he flips the script, the people who once stood above you will have to admit what they refused to see. That you were appointed, that you were anointed, that you were God's from the beginning. And no lie, no label, no manipulation can stop what heaven already confirmed. This isn't just a comeback. This is a divine reversal. The shift is already in motion. Now watch what happens next. Part 1. The silence that set the trap. They thought your silence was weakness. We watched you sit still, while they whispered, while they schemed, while they turned your name into a conversation they thought you'd never hear. They mistook your peace for passivity. They assumed that because you didn't clap back, you were defeated. They read your restraint as surrender. But they didn't know. Your silence was never fear. It was divine strategy, because the battle wasn't yours. It was his. And while they moved loudly, he moved differently. You prayed behind closed doors. You wept where only God could see. You chose not to retaliate because you trusted a justice that doesn't need to shout. And now, that silence they marked has become the trap they walked into. The very stillness they used to press harder, manipulate deeper, and assume victory was the stillness that let their own actions speak louder than your defense ever could. Just like Joseph when his brothers stood before him in Egypt, guilty and unaware. He didn't lash out. He didn't remind them of the pit or the price they got for selling him. He simply watched as God let the truth rise by itself. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good. Genesis 50:20. That's what your stillness did. It gave God space to reveal what you never had to explain. It positioned you for restoration without retaliation. It taught the watching world that you don't have to fight dirty to win, because chosen ones aren't just protected. They're preserved in silence, preserved in hidden places, reserved while God sets the stage. No, the same mouths that questioned your worth will tremble in the presence of what you carried all along, because the power wasn't in your voice, it was in your posture, and God is honoring that posture now. You didn't fight for revenge. You waited for reversal, and heaven has already declared, the tables are turning. Let this verse be your anchor. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14:40. You've been still long enough. Now, justice is walking in. Part 2. They thought God wasn't watching. For a while it looked like they were winning. Their lies were working. Their influence was growing. And every door that slammed in your face seemed to open wider for them. You watched them smile while they misused people. You watched them climb higher, on ladders built with manipulation and charisma. And you wondered, God, do you even see this? Sorry. But he did. He always did. They mistook his silence for permission. But silence isn't approval. It's strategy. Because while they reveled in their own brilliance, while they mocked what they couldn't understand, God was counting, watching, recording, just like he did with Belshazzar, the Babylonian king who mocked God's holiness at his drunken feast. As the laughter echoed through the palace, a hand appeared and wrote on the wall, Mene, Mene, Tekel, Parsin, Daniel 5:24. You have been weighed, you have been found wanting, your kingdom is taken from you. And just like that, the party turned into a judgment. Because God doesn't forget. He waits. He lets the proud build their illusion of power so high that when it falls completely. And that's what's happening now. The ones who thought they were untouchable, the ones who danced in their deception, are finding out the hard way that you can't outmaneuver the God of justice. He saw every manipulation they thought was genius. He watched every conversation they had about you behind closed doors. He heard every word they twisted, every heart they turned against you. And he said nothing, not because he was absent, but because he was aligning the perfect moment. And now, the same God who let them rise is bringing them back down, not with vengeance, but with exposure, because justice delayed is never justice denied. And just like the hand that wrote on Belshazzar's wall, God has written something in the spirit. You've been weighed, you've been found wanting, and now the shift begins. So if you've been wondering when justice will come, this is your confirmation. God didn't miss it. He didn't overlook you. He was watching it all. And now he's responding. Let this verse carry you today. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever one sows, that will he also reap. Galatians 6:7. The season of injustice is ending. The reversal has begun. And this time, no one will mistake who was really in control. Part 3. Built on lies, crushed by truth. At first, it looked convincing. They spoke with confidence, moved with charm. gathered crowds who clapped at every move. Their words were smooth, their presence magnetic. They even knew how to mention God just enough to seem anointed. But underneath it all was rot, a structure built on deception, a platform built on performance, a reputation built on rehearsed righteousness instead of real integrity. And for a season, it worked. People followed, doors opened, they gained influence by imitating light while hiding in darkness. But here's the thing about lies. They need maintenance. They demand energy to survive. They have to be fed, watered, protected, and eventually they collapse. Because truth doesn't compete. Truth waits. And when it shows up, it doesn't just whisper, it roars. Just like Jesus said, "What you have said in the dark will be heard in the light, and what you have whispered in private rooms will be proclaimed on the housetops." Luke 12:3. That's not metaphor, that's prophecy, because truth is not passive, it's patient, and the time of waiting is over. The same mouth that slandered you is stumbling now, trying to explain. The same story they fabricated is unraveling. Publicly, undeniably, completely, not because you exposed them, but because truth did. It didn't need your help. It just needed its moment. And when truth arrives, it doesn't just correct, it crushes every structure built to glorify a lie. We've seen it. Leaders, influencers, even friends, once praised, now silent, because truth caught up to the image they tried to protect. And here's the powerful part. You didn't have to lift a finger. God let you watch, not as a spectator of destruction, but as a witness of justice. He's showing you that when someone builds a platform on manipulation, it doesn't matter how high they climb. If the foundation isn't truth, it will collapse. So if you've been gaslit, slandered, betrayed, if they tried to make you look like the villain in a story they invented, don't panic. The collapse is coming, because what they built with lies, God is dismantling with light. And when it falls, the world will see the difference between real and counterfeit, between called and self-prohibited, between you and them. Let this word ground you. There is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought out into the open. Luke 8:17. Their rise was loud, but their fall will be louder. And the truth? It's not just coming, it's already walking in. Part 4. The gallows they built. They didn't just lie. They plotted, they strategized. Carefully crafted conversations meant to discredit you, to dismantle your name, piece by piece. It wasn't random, it was intentional. They built the narrative. They recruited the crowd. They smiled in your face while they hammered the nails behind your back. But here's the sacred irony. Every trap they set for you was a trap they were walking into. Just like Haman in the book of Esther, he couldn't stand Mordecai. Not because Mordecai did anything wrong, but because he refused to bow to pride. So Haman built gallows, 75 feet high, public, visible, ready. He thought he was preparing the stage for someone else's execution, but God had other plans, because in one holy reversal, Haman was hanged on the very gallows he built. So they hanged Haman on the gallows he had prepared for Mordecai. Esther 7:10. The same platform meant for your humiliation will become the place where God honors you. And the same system they tried to weaponize will turn on them. You don't have to defend yourself. You don't have to beg people to believe your side. You just have to stay in alignment, because God is flipping the script. And when he does, he makes sure justice is not just poetic, it's prophetic. Every meeting they had behind your back, every whisper they used to poison your name, every alliance they formed out of envy, God was taking notes. And now, the gallows are ready, but not for you, because chosen ones don't die in pits. They rise from them. They don't hang on gallows. They're honored beside them. And those who thought they could get away with spiritual murder, they're about to learn what divine reversal really looks like. Let this be your promise. Whoever digs a pit will fall into it. If someone rolls a stone, it will roll back on them. Proverbs 26:27. You didn't have to fight dirty. You stayed clean. You didn't build weapons. You built worship. And now, the gallows are groaning. The trap is closing. The reversal has already begun. And you're about to rise where they tried to erase you. Part 5. Your stillness was the setup. They thought you froze. When you didn't respond, didn't defend, didn't retaliate, they assumed you had nothing left. They whispered, "We got to them. Look, no fight, no comeback. They're finished." But what they couldn't see was what was happening beneath the silence. Because you weren't frozen. You were listening. You were discerning. You were waiting on divine timing. And that kind of stillness, it's not weakness. It's wisdom. It's what Jesus modeled when they hurled accusations at him before the crucifixion. He didn't plead, didn't explain. He stayed silent because he knew heaven was about to speak louder than words ever could. And now heaven is speaking for you. While they were building their platform on noise, you were building your foundation on reverence. While they moved out of insecurity, you moved with intentionality. They couldn't hear your prayers. They didn't see your tears. They mocked your restraint. But what they didn't know was this. Your stillness was never surrender. It was a setup for God to move in such a way that no one could take the credit but him. That's what Joseph understood. Thrown in a pit, sold into slavery, falsely accused, imprisoned, and through it all, he stayed still. And in that stillness, God was moving, repositioning, rewriting the entire narrative. And when the moment came, Joseph didn't have to ask for honor, but found him. Pharaoh called for him, gave him a robe, a ring, a kingdom, and those who betrayed him, they had to watch him rise, because the one they thought they buried was being planted for purpose. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good. Genesis 50:20. So hear me, chosen one. That quiet season wasn't a punishment. It was preparation. And the stillness they misread was sacred strategy. God let them move first, not because he was unsure, but because he wanted the full picture painted. So when he flips the canvas, the contrast would be undeniable. You didn't lose by staying still. You won by staying faithful. And now, the shift is here. The tables are turning. The trap has snapped closed. And your stillness has become your testimony. Let this promise settle in your bones. By your endurance, you will gain your lives. Luke 21:19. You didn't raise your voice. You raised your standard. And now God is raising you. Part 6. Manipulation became their megaphone. They thought they could control the story. They twisted facts, cherry-picked moments, built entire narratives to paint you as unstable, ungrateful, unworthy. And for a while, it looked like it was working. People believed them. Doors closed. Your name was met with whispers and raised eyebrows. But here's what they didn't understand. You don't need to scream truth when God is about to amplify it, because truth has a voice. And when it speaks, it doesn't stutter. What they meant to silence you, God is now using to reveal you. And the very lies they used to break your name are becoming the megaphone that broadcasts their intentions. Because here's the flaw in every manipulator's plan. Lies need maintenance. Truth doesn't. Lies unravel under pressure. Truth remains consistent. Lies crack in contradiction. Truth grows louder in stillness. And now, the story they rehearsed is crumbling. One forgotten detail here. One contradiction there. One witness whose conscience won't stay quiet anymore. God is dismantling it, brick by brick, not with lightning, but with exposure. For the Lord detests lying lips, but he delights in people who are trustworthy. Proverbs 12:22. You didn't have to chase every rumor. You didn't have to correct every whisper. You simply had to keep walking in integrity. And now their web of deceit is collapsing under its own weight. Just like Daniel, thrown into the lion's den not because he did wrong, but because others couldn't stand his righteousness. They manipulated laws. They twisted perceptions. They weaponized power. And Daniel said nothing. He let God shut the lions' mouths. And by morning, the king who signed the decree was shouting his vindication across the land. Is the living God. He rescues and he saves. Daniel 6:26. That's what happens when God turns manipulation into a megaphone. You don't just walk out of the pit. You walk out as proof that truth can't be buried forever. And the best part? You didn't force it. You didn't fake it. You didn't defend it. You lived it. And now heaven is making sure everyone hears it. So let them talk. Let them spin. Because every false word they spoke is becoming the backdrop for God's louder truth. And this time, it will be undeniable. Part 7. The celebration they can't cancel. They tried to erase you quietly, delve into their depth, discredit you subtly. They hoped your story would fade, that your influence would dry up in the dark, that your name would shrink in silence. But what they forgot is that God doesn't throw parties for the proud. He throws them for the faithful. And now, he's preparing a celebration. Not one you had to plan, not one you had to beg for, not one you had to manufacture with platforms or applause. This one is heaven ordained, a divine reward crafted in the hidden place. It won't be loud like theirs. It won't be posted for performance. But when it hits, you'll feel it in your bones. The doors that are opening now, they don't come with stress. They come with settledness. The kind of peace you can't fake. The kind of alignment that only God can write. This celebration isn't about proving your enemies wrong. It's about proving your Father right. He chose you. He refined you. He hid you, so that when the time came, no man could take credit for your rise. Think of Hannah. Years of mockery. Years of tears. Years of being misunderstood even by the priest. But she didn't retaliate. She prayed. And when God remembered her, he didn't just give her any child. He gave her Samuel, a prophet, a legacy, a seed of nation-shifting destiny. The Lord remembered her, and she bore a son. Valil, Iril, 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 Iril. The Lord remembered her and sucked the son. Iril, that wasn't just compensation. It was confirmation. That's what's coming for you. The kind of blessing that doesn't just make up for the pain, and he preaches to it. It tells your past. You were not in vain. It tells your enemies. God kept the receipts. It tells your soul. You didn't miss your moment. You were being preserved for it. So when people ask how you're still standing, how you have joy again, peace again, vision again, you'll smile and say, because God doesn't cancel what he anoints. Let this be your reminder. Instead of your shame, you will receive a double portion, and everlasting joy will be yours. Isaiah 61:7. Your celebration has nothing to do with revenge. It's about resurrection. It's about fulfillment. It's about the unmistakable sound of heaven clapping for the one who didn't quit. And this time, no lie can silence it. No envy can stop it. No man can cancel it. Part 8. Your story becomes their lesson. They watched you fall, some in silence, some in secret celebration. They listened to the lies. Some believed them, others helped spread them. A few even added their own, and for a time, it felt like no one would ever know the truth. but God did. And now, as he lifts you, restores you, and places your feet on ground they swore you'd never walk again, your story is becoming their lesson. Because divine justice never happens in a vacuum. It's not just personal. It's public. It's purposeful. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Psalm 23:5. This isn't about spite. It's about revelation. God doesn't just vindicate the victim. He educates the bystander. He shows the onlookers, the silent ones, the complicit crowd, that he was always watching, that he does not overlook betrayal, that he defends the humble, that truth has a resurrection date. And when the shift happens, when you rise, healed, whole, and undeniable, it becomes more than a testimony. It becomes a mirror. Some will be convicted. Others will be comforted. All will be reminded. God is not mocked. God is not absent. God does not forget. Your story will challenge the casual compromiser, confront the comfortable liar, encourage the silent sufferer, because when they see what you overcame, what you endured with grace, what you didn't expose out of obedience, they will know this wasn't survival, this was sacred. Just like Ananias and Sapphira, when their deception was exposed in Acts 5, the entire early church was shaken, not because God was cruel, but because he is holy. A great fear seized the whole church and all who heard about these events. Acts 5:11. Your life is a modern parable. Your vindication is now a warning. Your restoration is now a revelation. So walk in it boldly, not with bitterness, but with clarity. Not to gloat, but to glorify. Not to replay the pain, but to release purpose. Because when people see you now, they won't just see a person who made it out. They'll see a standard, and your story will speak to generations. That God sees, that God saves, that God shifts everything when the time is right. Let this word settle in your soul. The eyes of the Lord are in every place, keeping watch on the evil and the good. Proverbs 15:3. You didn't just survive injustice. You became a vessel of holy interruption. And now, your life is the sermon. Part 9. Exposure isn't about shame, it's about truth. We often think exposure is punishment. But when God exposes something, it's not about embarrassment, it's about alignment. Because truth can't heal what pride keeps hidden, and justice can't flow where lies are protected. When the exposure comes, it isn't chaos, it's correction. And that's what's happening now. God isn't just revealing what was done, He's revealing why they did it. Not just the action, but the motive. Not just the sin, but the spirit behind it. The Lord searches every heart and understands every desire and every thought. 1 Chronicles 28:9. You see, man looks at the image, but God sees the intent, the words they used to manipulate. He saw the envy behind them, the gestures they made to appear kind. He saw the control beneath them, the concern they used as a disguise. He saw the insecurity driving it. And when he exposes, he doesn't just pull back the curtain, he holds up a mirror, so not only the person but everyone watching can finally see clearly. Because God doesn't do small exposures. He does surgical ones, precise, deep, transformational. Just like Simon the sorcerer in Acts 8. He looked like a believer, followed the apostles, used all the right language. But when he offered money to buy the power of the Holy Spirit, Peter didn't just reject the offer, he exposed the heart. Your heart is not right before God. You are full of bitterness and captive to sin. Acts 8:21-23. That's what divine exposure does. It reaches past charisma, past reputation, past performance, and gets to the root. Not to destroy, but to warn, to refine, to reveal what God has been seeing all along. So don't be surprised when people's masks start cracking. Don't be confused when charm turns to chaos. God is cleaning house, not just in their life, in the community, in the church, in the culture, because deception has had the mic long enough. And now truth is rising. And for you, this isn't a moment to gloat. It's a moment to breathe, because you don't have to explain what God has already unveiled. You don't have to justify your past, when truth starts telling your story better than your words ever could. So stand in peace. Walk in clarity. Let this word anchor you. Man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. Samuel 16:7. They kept the outside polished. God revealed the inside broken. And now, truth is speaking. And it sounds a lot like justice. Part 10. The power shift that shakes thrones. There's a moment in every divine story when heaven doesn't just correct, it restructures. God doesn't just remove the corrupt, he replaces them. He doesn't just expose the deception, he elevates the faithful. And when that shift comes, it's not subtle, it's not hidden, it's a spiritual earthquake. The power dynamics change, the thrones shake, and those who ruled with ego are suddenly answering to order. Just like Saul, he was king, anointed once, praised often, feared by many. But when pride overtook him, when he chose image over obedience, control over humility, God said, "Enough. Because you have rejected the word of the Lord, he has rejected you as king." Samuel 15:23. And while Saul still held the crown, God was already raising up David in secret, because that's how the shift begins. Before the fall is public, the elevation is already in motion, behind the scenes, in fields, in silence, with slings and songs and sheep. While Saul threw spears, David wrote psalms. While Saul built ego, David built intimacy with God. And when the time came, God did what no throne could stop. He switched the seats. That's what's happening in your story right now. Those who used their power to manipulate, those who used their influence to silence, those who stood on false strength are being dethroned, and the ones who were overlooked, the ones who were mocked, dismissed, misread, are being called forward, not because of strategy, but because of sovereignty. This is not your doing, it's your becoming, and the seat they thought belonged to them by charisma is now being handed to you by covenant. Brings down rulers from their thrones, but lift up the humble. Luke 1:52. You're not stepping in with swagger, you're stepping in with authority, the kind that comes from scars, the kind that comes from fire, the kind that doesn't need approval because heaven already said yes. And the people who once watched you suffer, they're about to watch you stand, not as a substitute, but as the one God always had in mind. This isn't just your rise, it's the reordering of the room, because when God flips the script, he doesn't just change the character, he changes the stage. So don't shrink, don't apologize. You didn't take anything, you were trusted with it. This is the power shift, and it cannot be stopped. They tried to break you in silence, but God chose to raise you in public. They rewrote your story with slander, but God rewrote your ending with glory. And now that the dust has settled, the roles are reversed, and the truth is undeniable. You can finally breathe, not in bitterness, but in blessing, not for revenge, but for restoration. Because this entire journey wasn't about proving them wrong. It was about proving God right. He saw your posture, he recorded your restraint, and now he's repaying you with honor no man can take away. You're not just the one who survived, you're the one who stayed clean while being slandered, who chose integrity over image, who trusted heaven's court more than man's opinion. And that is why you're rising. Your pain became prophecy, your stillness became strategy, your story became a sermon. Let this truth wash over you. Prepares a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Psalm 23:5. Instead of your shame, you will receive a double portion. Isaiah 61:7. You were never disqualified. You were being developed. And now, the celebration they tried to cancel is the crowning God refuses to delay. So take your seat, not as a victim, as a vessel. You didn't rise because of favor with man. You rose because of faith with God. This is not just your breakthrough. It's your new beginning. Stillness is not surrender, it's spiritual strategy. God's silence isn't absence, it's alignment. The ones who buried you didn't know you were a seed. Public honor follows private obedience. Vindication is never rushed, it's revealed. If this message confirmed what your spirit already knew, if something in you whispered, "This was for me," type in the comments, "The reversal has begun." Let heaven and every lie spoken against you know you're still standing. If this story stirred healing in you, share it. You never know who's holding their breath, praying for justice, waiting for their own reversal. And if you believe stories like this matter, if you want to help messages of truth and healing reach more souls, support the mission, details in the description. Even a small gift can echo with eternal impact. You didn't just survive injustice. You became evidence that God still honors the humble. Stay rooted. Stay pure. Stay chosen. The tables didn't just turn. He flipped the whole room for you.